you serious?
Always.
Why Mission Impossible? What was it that triggered your fancy about this particular idea?
It's asking for, to be made, I felt, into a feature film. You know, you have this half-hour series on television back in the 60s, early 70s, and I thought I could just picture the trailer, you know, and the story, and it's the intrigue. It was just there for me. You know, you could take it anywhere. You could take it any place.
It's much worse than you think.
Yes. You know, that was one of the things I thought was going to be a lot of fun in this movie, and Brian designed the sequences. I could do my own stunts, you know, and have a little fun with that stuff. And Brian designed the sequences so that I could do pretty much 95% of my own stunts. And then we got to that sequence.
And you have how much water coming at you at this point? I mean,
tons,
yeah,
and big
literally.
chunks of glass. So I thought, you know, I don't think I got to get up, break through the glass, hit this mark, fire the one in front of the one up has, and then go. Whatever. Brian said, look, man, I said, I can't break through that glass first. You see, I'm an actor, you know. You know, I will stand there and do everything in my power when that first one goes. But when he just kind of looked at me, he started laughing.
You can understand you're very upset. Kittredge, you've never seen me very upset.
Welcome to Trimming the Movie Fab, the podcast where we trim films from franchises that don't belong. I'm Stephen Nicholson.
And I'm Paul Nicholson.
And today we're donning our stretchy face masks and preparing to break into the CIA's HQ in Langley as we take on the first three movies in Tom Cruise's espionage action series, Mission Impossible. Our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to rank each movie top, middle, or lower tier. Which movies will survive a frantic train ride through the Channel Tunnel? The twisty, turny original, the disappointing John Woo second, the oh my god, Ethan Hawke is married third. Keep listening to find out. We'll also share some Mission Impossible movie facts, provide an overview of each movie, and share our thoughts on each. And we'll do the same in part 2 as we look at Mission Impossibles 4 to 6 and give our initial impressions of the newly released Part 7 Dead Reckoning Part 1. Mission Impossible is a series of American action spy films based on the television series of the same name created by Bruce Geller. The series is mainly produced by and stars Tom Cruise, who plays Ethan Hunt, an agent of the Impossible Mission Force, also known as the IMF. The films have been directed, written and scored by various filmmakers and crew, while incorporating musical themes from the original series by Lalo Schifrin. So you had Mission Impossible from 1996, directed by Brian De Palma, Mission Impossible 2 from 2000, directed by John Woo, and Mission Impossible 3, directed by J.J. Abrams from 2006. The gross for these first three movies is $1.4 billion US, with the initial 6 movies grossing over $3.5 billion. The most successful film is 2018's Fallout, which is the 6th movie. Okay, we've just picked up a landline phone call from a phone box in Prague. The caller said that we should get on with critiquing the movies, and that this message will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Okay, we're clinging on to the side of the plane. Let's go.
Good morning, Mr. Phelps. This is your mission should you choose to accept it. Should you or any member of your IM force be caught or killed, the Secretary will disavow all knowledge of your actions. Ethan Hunt will be your point man as usual. Good luck, Jim.
Simple game. he serious?
Always.
It's much worse than you think.
We're being ambushed. Abort, that's an order.
They knew we were coming. Do you read me? I don't care how he did it. I want to know why he did it. You're worried about me. Why you survived.
I'm sure we can find something I have that you need.
No one sent me.
These guys are trained to be ghosts. Let's not waste time chasing after him. Just make him come to us. Find something that's personally important to him, and you squeeze.
This whole operation was a decoy.
I can understand you're very upset.
You've never seen me very upset.
This tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
Again, it's a matter of being in the right place at the right time. Mike Ovitz called me up and said, "You interested in doing Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise?" I said, "Are you kidding? Of course." Because I was determined to make a huge hit. And I said, with Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible, I'm ready. So this was a situation where whatever Tom wanted to do, they would make. They didn't care. They just wanted to make Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. Tom, on the other hand, of course, his first picture he's producing, wanted it to be exactly right. So I got a hold of David Koepp, who wrote Carlito's Way, to do the script. When we got through the David Koepp script, and they liked the script, Tom, of course, had things, character things that were bothering him he wasn't happy with. I said, "Tom, you've got to walk into Sherry's office with me and say you want to make this movie or we're going nowhere." And I finally got him to say yes, he would make this script. The next phone call I got the next morning was a call from Paula. She said, "The good news is we're a go picture. The bad news is we're firing David Koepp and we're bringing on Robert Towne." Tom felt that Towne could bring some character things to it. Well, how do you convey this to your pal?
Now, as exciting as that is, I actually preferred the invasion of CIA headquarters by Cruise to that train ride. The breaking in, inspired by the Jewel heist picture Rafifi, and later repeated by Jules Dassin in Top Cappy, is a superb, nearly silent action sequence that pulls this whole movie together. But my biggest compliments go to Cruise himself. He believes in his stories to such a degree that his conviction in the material bounces off the screen and carries us along too. Ultimately, he's the reason we care about the very convoluted goings-on in Mission Impossible. I had people, Roger, tell me, I don't know what this movie was about. They couldn't figure it out.
You know, I don't think you and I know what it was about, because earlier today we had a long discussion trying to figure out exactly what Cruise is doing and why, and it really doesn't matter because it's all surface. This movie is, in a way, the opposite of The Arrival, which was about ideas. In this movie, you'd be very hard-pressed to extract an idea from it. It's all visuals, it's all situations, it's all adventure and spectacle and special effects and suspense.
But this
and
intensity,
very done and very well done.
I'm just impressed. And this is why these actors, and Harrison Ford is another one, the acting of action heroes is so undervalued by critics and by the Motion Picture Academy, but it pays off.
It's hard to do. It's hard to do. The only thing that I question about this movie is, seeing as I did enjoy it,
I did too,
and I'm giving it a thumbs up, I wonder if it might have been better if they had a plot that anyone could understand. Because I defy anyone to come out of this movie and explain to me or to you or to anybody else exactly what everybody was doing and why.
There's a lot of double dealing. I think I could take a stab at it.
There's a lot of double dealing, but there's also a lot of fudging.
Okay, so Mission Impossible was released in 1996. It was directed by Brian De Palma, and the plot for this one, when US government operative Ethan Hunt, played by Tom Cruise, and his mentor Jim Phelps, played by John Vaughn, go on a covert assignment that takes a disastrous turn. Jim is killed, and Ethan becomes the prime murder suspect. Now a fugitive, Hunt recruits brilliant hacker Luther Stickel, played by Ving Rhames, and a maverick pilot, Franz Krieger, played by Jean Reno, to help him sneak into a heavily guarded CIA building, to retrieve a confidential computer file that will prove his innocence. So Mission Impossible grossed $457 million worldwide on a budget of $80 million. Its profit multiplier, it made nearly 5 times its budget, and it was the 3rd highest grossing movie worldwide in 1996, with Independence Day being the number 1. And it is the 5th highest grossing Mission Impossible movie domestically at this time. So ratings wise, it's got a 66% fresh Rotten Tomatoes score, a 59 out of 100 critic Metascore on IMDb, a 71% Rotten Tomatoes audience score, and a 7.1 IMDb audience rating. And here's a fact related to the movie. During the filming of the scene in the vault heist where Cruise is suspended by a cable, Cruise put British pound coins in his shoes as counterweights to stay level. And in summary, full of special effects, Brian De Palma's update of Mission Impossible has a lot of sweeping spectacle, but the plot is sometimes convoluted. Okay, Paul, what say you?
Really good film. It's I remember going to see it at the time.
Did we go and see it together?
I think so.
Yeah.
I've seen all of them bar the second one, which is maybe not a bad thing in the cinema. But I remember really liking it at the time, and just the sort of, it was quite dark as well. It was a very dark movie and a lot of twists.
Mm-hmm. Maybe too many.
Maybe. And no, a really, really good film. I don't think it's, when I've watched it in more recent times, it's maybe not as good as I remember. Maybe.
Ooh.
But a really good film.
I think on rewatching it for doing the podcast, the thing that struck me was how young Tom Cruise looks. I mean, what age was he at the time? Was he still in his 20s?
No,
maybe early 30s or something. But yeah, he just looks so young. Another thing I remember from the time, well, I have to say I really enjoyed this movie at the time. Even now, still watching it, I still think a lot of the time, what the hell is going on? So I think it's needlessly complicated. But yeah, I remember buying the video when it came out, and I think it was like, if you were one of the first to buy it, you got this Mission Impossible backpack or a bag, which was really cool, and I wish I'd kept it now. I think it had the Mission Impossible logo on the back in red, and it was a black backpack, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think one of the things which it still does, which is iconic, is the masks.
Yeah.
Which is really good. I like that they use, and this is, I think, when Prague was starting to get used more for filming movies.
Yeah, it was.
So that was a really good location to use, and I went to Prague. I've been to Prague a few times, but the first time I went there was 2005, and it was great to walk around and actually recognise a lot of the bridge and the bit where the car explodes in the car park off there, and just walking around going, oh, that was Mission Impossible. But you have great tension in that opening scene, which is really good, as the IMF team are killed off. That's really good. Also, it's great to hear the theme tune again, because it's one of TV's greatest, most iconic TV themes. I think the cast is great. When you rewatch it, you realise how good that cast is. I like that they brought back from the TV show the whole, this tape will self-destruct, which was always great. I think directing wise, Brian De Palma it's a very Brian De Palma movie, using all his kind of tropes there. I like the European locations, when it's London, Prague and so on, which I think Europe's always best for spy movies. They don't work as well when you, say, go to America or somewhere.
Like the Bourne films are all European.
It's like it works best when it's the European locations, that kind of history, the buildings.
Plus the darkness as well.
I think so. Yeah, the weather and all that. I like Kidrich as kind of the slimy bureaucrat, and I'm pleased to see he's coming back in the new movie.
Oh, good.
He's back in it for the first time, so it'll be interesting to see how they work him back in there. And I think one of the things I really enjoyed about it as well is the reveal where, obviously, Ethan thinks he's lost the entire team at the beginning of the movie, and he meets up with Kidrich in the middle of Prague at the restaurant, which isn't actually really there in Prague, and obviously Kidrich thinks Ethan is the one that's the mole. Mm-hmm. And remember, they're sitting there, and then Ethan's like, why was there another team at the embassy? And then he's going, and he's taking Kidrich around the room. Well, that guy that's the waiter, he was there. The waitress, she was there. And obviously it shows you that. And then I think the other good, and you know, when the water tank bursts, and it's slow motion, that's great. But the other good one was the reveal with later in the movie when Ethan kind of realises that Jim has double-crossed him, and he's thinking in his head what really happened and who murdered who. That's really, really good. And of course you've got that iconic scene in Langley with you know, try to break into the vault, which is great. And I still like the climax with the tunnel, which was still tunnel, which is still fairly new at the time. So I mean, I know you say you don't like it as much now. I still love this movie as much as I ever did. I think it's a classic. I never get bored watching this movie. I think it's an absolute classic.
27 years old.
I know, which is hard to believe, but for me it's a classic
and the
spy movie.
The music as well, I remember buying the CD single.
Oh yeah.
Larry Mullen and was it The Edge?
It was Adam Clayton and Larry Mullen from U2.
A really good version
I bought that
of
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good, up to date.
The CD, I remember buying the CD single, good version.
I think it's still the best version, actually.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we're going to rank each of the movies, and when we get to part 2, after we've looked at all 6 movies, we'll then rank them in order of our preference. But before we get there, we're going to rank each movie, either top, middle, or lower tier. Where would you put the first Mission Impossible?
Top.
Yep, I'd agree with you. I'm putting it in the top tier as well. So yes, we are fans of this film after all these years.
Agent located. Identity confirmed.
Good morning, Mr. Hunt. Sorry I barged in on your vacation. Well, Mr. Hunt, I don't quite know where to begin.
You know me?
No. Should I?
She's got no training for this kind of thing.
To go to bed with a man like him, she's a woman. She's got all the training she needs.
Welcome to Australia, mate. This ain't funny.
The mother of all nightmares is on the loose.
I don't think I can do it.
I mean, it'll be difficult.
Very.
Well, this is not mission difficult, Mr. Hunt. It's mission impossible. Difficult to be a walk in the park for you.
You gotta be kidding.
This message will destruct in 5 seconds.
The idea came from Tom, and he told me he liked rock climbing, flying planes, and like motorcycles, all those kind of thing. And by the meantime, we tried to use the scene to establish Ethan Hunt's new character. We wanted to create a new kind of hero, a person who really care about people, and just like the ordinary people, he enjoyed life. He had a lot of great passion about nature, about love, about everything, and also full of energy and full of life.
I think
think it's interesting that you made all these James Bond references because this is not a James Bond movie.
No.
We already have James Bond. We've got Pierce Brosnan. This is supposed to be the Impossible Mission Force. It's supposed to be a team of people, but it's not. It's a Tom Cruise movie. It's one of the reasons it didn't work for me. You knew this thing was going to be a huge hit. Tom Cruise knows it's going to be a huge hit. I wish he would have come up with a better script to fit the action scenes. Yeah, the action scenes are great, but so what? People know how to do action scenes. John Woo knows how to film them. Tom Cruise knows how to star in them. And you mentioned the chemistry between him and Tandy Newton. I didn't see that happening either.
Well, you know, of course it's just action scenes. You know, it's June. I think people want to go see a movie like this at the beginning of every summer season. And, of course, it's just Tom Cruise and not a team because what they've done here is simplify it. They're looking for a franchise.
Then why call it Mission Impossible?
Well,
I mean, if he wants to do a super spy movie, he should do a super spy. It's really more like Batman.
Yeah, but it's his Mission Impossible. He's given the mission. He does it. He's the hero. He's there all alone on the mountain in the first shot. He's there throughout the entire movie. And that's the way I think this series is going to develop. It's going to forget the rest of the team, forget the TV show, and be Tom Cruise as James Bond for the 21st century.
Well, they should call it Mission Piece of Cake because he's such a cartoon superhero. Nothing bad's ever going to happen to him.
Oh, come on, you enjoyed this movie. Admit it.
I enjoyed certain parts of
right?
it, but you know, I was also uncomfortable with the Tandy Newton romance because he meets her, he sleeps with her, and then he says, "By the way, on our third date, you got to go back and sleep with your ex-boyfriend,"
which is right out of Notorious.
Yeah,
Cary
but
Grant and
it's
Ingrid
just
Bergman.
kind of creepy. The whole thing was creepy to me. Yeah, the action sequences worked, but I think Tom Cruise has the clout, obviously, to go to his scriptwriters and say, "Give me more of a story that people can care."
Well, of course, if you want more of a story, go back to Notorious, where there's a lot of poignancy involving the fact that the woman does what the man she loves asks her to do in order to save her country and so forth. Here it's more cynical, but then here it's 2000 and not 1946.
I'd like to see a more cohesive team effort if it's going to be called Mission Impossible.
Okay, let's move on to, because we have to Mission Impossible 2, directed by John Woo and released in 2000. And the plot, well, we say the word plot in the very loosest sense of the word. The plot for this one: Tom Cruise returns to his role as Ethan Hunt in the second instalment of Mission Impossible. This time, Ethan Hunt leads his IMF team on a mission to capture a deadly German virus before it is released by terrorists. His mission is made impossible due to the fact that he is not the only person after samples of the disease. He must also contest with a gang of international terrorists headed by a turned bad former IMF agent who has already managed to steal the cure. So the gross in this one, this was actually very, very successful. It grossed $546 million US. Bear in mind that's back in 2000.
Yeah.
So that was on a budget of 125 million. Its profit multiplier, it made over 4 times its budget, and it was the second highest grossing movie domestically in 2000, behind, of all things, The Grinch That Stole Christmas. And it is the second highest grossing Mission Impossible movie domestically of all time.
I find that
still
crazy.
I know, so do I think that is absolutely bonkers. So rating-wise, I was surprised at this. 56% fresh Rotten Tomatoes score from critics, 59 out of 100 critic Metascore on IMDb, 42% Rotten Tomatoes audience score, and a 6.1 IMDb audience rating. And a fact for you: the famous rock climbing sequence was filmed at Dead Horse Point in Utah, USA. Tom Cruise was on cables, which were then digitally removed. Ron Kauk was the climbing double, and the overhang stunt was performed by the main stunt double, Keith Campbell. Wasn't John Woo was so scared each time, but Tom insisted on doing it. And I have to say that sequence is actually very impressive, the rock climbing one. That is, well, it kind of goes downhill after that.
Yeah.
And in summary, your cranium may crave more substance, but your eyes will feast on the amazing action sequences. Well, I don't agree with that at all. But yeah, what do you think Mission Impossible 2, Paul?
It's funny because I didn't think I saw it probably till after I'd seen the third one or something.
Oh, really?
Years later. And it's the only one that I didn't go to see in the cinema. And it's, I mean, the bit at the start, that is impressive. That almost sets the tone for like a lot of the stunts and stuff that would come in the following sequels. But it feels like a big long music MTV video. And I think this is like the opposite of the first one we were talking about, the first one being in Europe and it's quite dark and cold. This one's like in Australia and Utah, and it's all sunny, and
I think Spain as well. Is it Spain that I think he meets up with Thandie Newton? Or it's meant to be Spain, I think.
Spain,
yeah.
So it just doesn't suit the Mission Impossible, and I think.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, it just. I don't know if it was that period as well where Tom Cruise was getting a bit. I don't know, a bit silly as well.
Big for his boots.
Yeah, the long hair and everything, and I don't like Dougray Scott in it either. I think he's quite poor.
Well, and the thing is, well, we're both from Edinburgh. Dougray Scott is from Edinburgh, so you'd think you'd be supporting your fellow Edinburgher there, Paul.
Might be due to the football team he supports.
Well, he does support a very dodgy football team here, yes.
But no, I just felt it just didn't really work, and that's why it's really surprising that it's the second highest grosser. Mm-hmm. It does look impressive, like a lot of the chase scenes and the motorbike and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It does look good, but it's not really a Mission Impossible film for me. It's more like a sort of Fast and Furious or something.
I think we're obviously going to talk about Mission Impossible 3 shortly, but when you kind of get to Mission Impossible 3 in that first 10 minutes of that film, you're just like, we're back. Mm. This is a Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like one. I won't beat around the bush with this. For me, this is by far and away the worst Mission Impossible movie.
I agree.
I would maybe even use the word hate, because I went to see this at the cinema, and I'm a big fan of the original. Went to see this opening weekend with Alison. I think Lisa Sherman came along with us. Mm-hmm. So we went along to see it, and I was so disappointed. And I know what initially what Tom Cruise was trying to do with these movies is he wanted to have different directors for each movie, because he wanted each movie to feel unique in its own way. So I know what he was going for. I know what he was trying to do, keep it fresh. And so you go from a very, obviously, Brian De Palma, who's very Alfred Hitchcock based, that kind of thriller set predominantly in Europe. You then go to a director famous for, from the Far East, who's famous for kind of your kind of martial arts action movies. And for example, he did Face Off, which is one of my favourite movies. That's brilliant, and he made that in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So it's a very different type of movie. It just doesn't work, and as I say, I'm so disappointed. I think it's horribly over stylized. I think it's corny. I think it's really a really dated action movie, which greatly misses the European espionage feel of the first. And you just think to yourself, how could so many talented people, from the actors and actresses, production team, the director,
big budget,
right, and a very sizable budget, how could they make such a poor film? But I don't want to be totally negative, so I'll talk about the things that I do like. I think it was great to actually see Sydney as a location, because Australia is just one of those places that you just don't see that much in big budget movies.
I think around this time as well they started doing all the Star Wars films.
That's right, they opened up the 20th Century Fox studio down there. So, and obviously they filmed some The Matrix and so on down there. So it was nice to see Sydney in Australia being used. I liked Tom Cruise's performance at the beginning when he's, you think it's Ethan Hunt, but it's not Ethan Hunt, it's Dougray Scott's character. And it's good because obviously Tom Cruise is playing it, but something's just a wee bit off about the way he's acting. Yeah, so I like that, and it's a nice juxtaposition with the opening of the previous movie. I like Thandie Newton in it, and that was probably her first big role. Again, she looks so young in this, but she's really good in this, and she's a very, very good actress. I like Thandie Newton, and I like I mentioned it already, the obligatory Tom Cruise does his own dangerous stunt thing with some of the bike stuff and obviously the rock climbing. So that's the likes. Dislikes, John Woo's direction. Right, it doesn't work here. It's not a good fit for a Mission Impossible movie. As I said, I love Face Off from 1997. But this is just so off. I think it's laughably bad at times, slow motion is used
That's what I was thinking,
far too often.
It's like a spoof.
Oh, it is. It's like somebody's going to the toilets in slow motion.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just so off-putting.
parody.
Yeah, no, that's what it's like, isn't it?
It makes me think of something from the 80s, you know, like the mid-80s, late 80s, something around that time, but this was 2000, and it was filmed like an MTV video along.
It is, yeah.
Or like a made-for-TV movie or something. It had that feel to it.
And you've got in it as well those dated zoom shots as well. And the one that stuck out for me was, you know, because you've got Hans Zimmer's score, which was very kind of flamenco influenced, and you've got a lot of that where the camera would zoom in on Thandie Newton and Tom Cruise, and you're going, this is terrible. With some slow motion yet again, and you're just thinking this is
like
bad.
the A-Team or something.
And actually, I found myself laughing out loud at one bit where it was a bit where Tom Cruise and Thandie Newton, their cars are spinning, and it's in slow motion, and the camera zooms in on them, and they're staring at each other, and you've got the kind of flamenco score, and I was laughing, going, "Oh my God, this is bad!" And it just so happened Ben was watching that part with me, and he said, I remember he said to me, going, "Dad, what's going on?"
So even when a kid can see,
so even a young teenager was going, "What is going on? Why is the camera keep zooming in on their faces, and why is everything going slow all the time?" And so John Woo's direction, no. The story, I thought it was like a computer game story. It was generic, it was shallow, it wasn't engaging. I thought it was needlessly complicated in parts. No, it just wasn't engaging. And the action, John Woo, for me, it was just, the action was unexciting and uninvolving and needless a lot of the time. And the bit where, again, I laughed out loud rewatching it was the bit where, in the climax, where Tom Cruise is or Ethan Hunt's breaking into the complex where Dougray Scott is, and the first guard he comes across, he knocks him to the ground, and the guy's lying there, and Tom Cruise does a big flip and lands, I think, with both his legs across the guy's chest. I was like, what's the point in that? Just punch him and knock him out. Oh, what's going on? But actually, it was getting to the point where it was funny with it. But yeah, so I mean, in summary, I think that says it all. Every Mission Impossible movie I have purchased, whether it's on DVD or Blu-ray or on digital,
4K now.
every one of them, with the exception of Mission Impossible 2, because
you not bought it, no?
No, because why would I? Honestly, I think it's.
I suppose I bought the box
rubbish.
set online, so you're going to get them all. But
so I've never bought it. Because I don't want to watch it again. I wouldn't. It's just one I would never rewatch.
Do you know the funny thing though? Because I remember it being so poor. When you watch it, your expectations are not high, and sometimes you're like, oh, actually, it's not that bad, because your expectations are so low with it.
It is. And the thing is, my expectations are below zero, and I see this film once every blue moon. And each time I go back to it, I think, well, maybe this is the time that I can maybe like it. And it's like, no. And this, I think this was the nail in the coffin this time. So let's rank it, and this might not be a surprise where we're going with this. Where would you rank this?
Bottom.
Yeah, lower tier, same for me. Absolute stinker.
The nadir of the franchise.
By some distance, yeah. So, unfortunately, and it's a shame, because I think this is the only Mission Impossible movie which is poor. The rest, I mean, some are better than others, but this is the one which is really, doesn't belong.
Who are you? You have a wife, girlfriend? Whoever she is, I'm gonna find her. I'm gonna hurt her. And then I'm gonna kill you right in front of her.
J.J. Abrams.
Yes.
This is from Susan Longo from Radcliffe.
No.
Kentucky.
Susan Longo?
Yeah. What inspired you to direct Mission Impossible 3? And I thank you that you did, by the way.
That is incredibly kind of you, Tom Cruise. First of all, Susan, what inspired me was being offered the job. That was a huge inspiration because, I mean, let's be honest. Did I think that was going to happen? Mission Impossible, the series, as you know, inspired in many ways Alias. Mm-hmm. And so doing Alias was oddly the thing that ended up landing me this job because you saw that show. So it was the idea that I'm directing Mission Impossible because I was inspired by Mission Impossible is sort of a strange.
You did it better. Your characters, you know, when I saw Alias, what you accomplished with Alias in one show, it's extraordinary.
Well, thank you.
There's great characters, great storytelling, incredible tension. That's what I wanted. That's what you do. So you're a great filmmaker.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
You're a great filmmaker.
Literally, all I'm going to do is thank you this entire interview. It's going to be so pathetic. Thank you, Tom.
You can. It's very good, actually. Is it? Fine. Okay. Well, he took over from Joe Carnahan, who I think directed Narc and was originally down to do MI3, and there was all these production problems with it. And you know, there's all the stuff in the tabloid about Tom Cruise was taking over everything, and everything was very, very hard to get done. Different directors, blah blah blah. So fine. Now we end up with the finished film, which, according to its publicity, aims for more depth than the previous two, which frankly is not hard. I mean, it's not hard to be deeper than Mission Impossible or Mission Impossible 2. It has the On Her Majesty's Secret Service depth riff, which is, let's give the secret agent a wife, a girlfriend and wife, who the baddie can then terrorise in a way which causes the central secret agent something approaching genuine emotional anguish. Of course, it's just a device like anything else. We've all seen it done a million times before. It doesn't mean it's real depth. It's the appearance of depth. But deliciously, in MI3, the baddie is played by Philip Seymour Hoffman. Excellent. And here he is using some of that leverage on the newlywed Tom. You see, that kind of gives you the measure of it, in that you have Tom, okay, fine, Tom Cruise, people are very rude about him, perfectly fine, sometimes a good actor, sometimes not a good actor, maybe a bit strange in, private life.
Yeah, but he's on with Philip Seymour Hoffman, and as we've already proved,
there is no such thing as a bad Philip Seymour Hoffman movie, and there is nothing here to go against that rule. I've read some of the highbrow reviews today. Honestly, these people should just grow up. Mission Impossible 3 is perfectly fine, and on occasion, it's quite good. For one thing, it's nastier than one would expect, particularly for a 12A certificate movie, which, according to the grid, contains moderate action violence.
So let's move on to a better movie, Mission Impossible 3 from 2006 and directed by J.J. Abrams. So the plot for this one: retired from active duty and training recruits for the Mission Impossible force, Agent Ethan Hunt faces the toughest foe of his career, Owen Davian, or is it Davian? I can't remember. Anyway, he is played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, an international broker of arms and information who is as cunning as he is ruthless. Davian emerges to threaten Hunt and all that he holds dear, including the woman Hunt loves. So the gross for this one actually was a bit of a disappointment, this one. So it grossed $398 million US worldwide on a budget of 150 million. So it made just over 2.5 times its budget, and it was only the 12th highest grossing movie domestically in 2006, with the Pirates of the Caribbean sequel, Dead Man's Chest, taking the #1 slot. And it is, to date, the lowest grossing Mission Impossible movie. So ratings wise, the critics liked it at 71% on Rotten Tomatoes, 66 out of 100 on the IMDb critic Metascore. Audience-wise, it is favourable, 69% on the Rotten Tomatoes audience score and 6.9 on the IMDb audience rating. And here's a fact for you: Ricky Gervais was cast as Benjamin Dunn, but due to production delays, Gervais left the project due to scheduling conflicts with For Your Consideration, a movie from 2006. Wonder if he regrets that.
I think so, yeah.
You would expect so, wouldn't you? It would be nice to appear in kind of a hugely successful series like this. And in summary, fast-paced with eye-popping stunts and special effects, The latest Mission Impossible installment delivers everything an action fan could ask for, a thrilling summer popcorn flick. Is it a thrilling summer popcorn flick for you, Paul?
It's good. It's almost back on
form.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so it's almost like it's more like the Mission Impossible we know and love, and it's got that feeling to it. Because the second one just felt like a separate film, didn't feel like part of the franchise. Whereas this one's like, I guess maybe playing it a bit safer, but a really good cast. And the bit that starts a real shock as well. The bit, of his girlfriend.
That's a brilliant bit at the beginning.
It's really good at the start, and that kind of throws up a lot at the start, and twists and everything. And I think we went to see it together.
I've definitely seen it at the cinema. Yeah. And J.J. Abrams is really good at that kind of stuff. And they call it the mystery box, in that he will set something up and you want to see what happens because you're like, oh, what's happened there? And obviously it was smart to put something from the final act of the movie at the beginning of the movie, then the rest would then start at the beginning and work our way up to that point. That was really, really a smart choice to do that. And two great actors just going at it face to face. Philip Seymour Hoffman and Tom Cruise. But yeah, brilliant beginning.
Yeah, so I think it's a good film. Do I think it's one of the best? No.
I would agree with you.
I think it's because it's when you've had like the second one was before it, anything's going to be better. So, but I still think, don't want to give too much away, but the best is still to come.
I would agree with you.
Yeah. But I think this is just that in between, almost like making up for the second one, but almost like a bridge to the what was to come, which was like a massive improvement. So I think this was just like an in-between piece to get to where it wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I guess I wonder if that's to do with like the takings for the film, if that was maybe why it maybe didn't do as well as people would have thought.
Yeah, I remember at the time it was considered a disappointment, and I think that was when there was a bit of a post-mortem, right, as this Tom Cruise box office appeal starting to wane. But I think then there was a lot of talk that they would then maybe, with the next one, they would bring somebody else in, and because maybe Tom Cruise didn't have that same star power anymore. But of course, who's laughing now?
I think he after this he makes it. It's like the biggest films ever, and they get better.
Absolutely. So yeah, for me, it's a solid action movie. As I said before, within that first 10 minutes, we know we're back into a proper Mission Impossible movie after the MI2 misfire. Great opening sequence, and I think all the scenes between Tom Cruise and Philip Seymour Hoffman really crackle with tension, and arguably he is the best villain in the entire franchise. I like Lawrence Fishburne's post-Berlin operation review assassination of Hunt and Musgrave. It's tremendous, and actually it was a shame Lawrence Fishburne didn't return in the series. I think the whole Rome action sequence is great, and it's good in this one. They gave Ethan Hunt a bit of a personal life, because that was something that was really quite lacking in the first two. And so yes, they've given him a girlfriend, they've given him a wife, and it does make for some added tension. And I think for those that have not seen it before, keep an eye out for a pre-Breaking Bad cameo from Aaron Paul. And things I didn't like, the cinematography, for whatever reason I found it a bit muggy, not sharp, so I'm not a fan of that. I thought the action sequence in Berlin was a bit generic, and the bridge sequence is very derivative of James Cameron's True Lies from 1994. But overall, a huge upgrade on Mission Impossible 2. Paul, where would you rank this movie?
I would say middle.
I would agree with you on that. I think it's it's a good film, solid, back on track. But yes, there are better movies, Mission Impossible movies than this, and we will be talking about those movies in part 2, where we will have a look. And I'll tell you, I find it difficult remembering the names of the Mission Impossible movies.
I can't tell you the names. I just know there's 4, 5, and 6.
I know. So, Mission Impossible 4 is Ghost. Now 5. Now it's 5 Rogue Nation, 6 is Fallout, Ghost Protocol's the 4th one. Yeah, but I always get them mixed up and forget. And this new one's Dead Reckoning.
Right, because there's 2 parts of it.
Part 1 and 2. So yeah, I always get mixed up with them. Mission Impossible 4, 5, and 6.
5.
Yeah. So yes, come back for that, where we'll talk about those movies. We'll rank them. Then we will rank all 6 movies. In fact, we'll maybe be able to rank all 7 movies, because I think by the time...
by then?
I think so, yeah. Actually, I was at the cinema the other day there to see The Flash, and they played the Mission Impossible trailer, and it looks really, really good. It does look really good. So, yeah, can't wait to see it. So hopefully, by the time we get around to recording the next one, we will have seen the brand new one there. So let us know what you think of the first 3 movies, what you think of 4, 5, and 6 as well, and we'll read out your comments on the next show. So until then, thanks for listening, and keep trimming.
Bye. Best is yet to come.